Down a dark music hall, soft music plays. An old man in a piano room sits off in a daze. A haunting routine invited by death is what brought him to the keys. But every note he plays puts his heart at ease. Death claimed his lover, a disease of the heart, a murmur in its rhythm, a cease in its start. She loved to play the keys, it's how she spent each day. Would Stan return from work, he'd listen to her play. But now the dirt claims her body, and her soul claims his heart, and the pain from his grief has yet to cease its start. To ease his pain and misery, Stan burned all his wife's belongings. But as the piano turned to ash, he knew he'd done the wrong thing. Stan all but lost his mind, and even that he barely held. As the months went on, he withered into nothing but a shell. One day Stan awoke to rain, and the sound, it soothed his ears. So he stepped outside in hope that it could drown out his mournful tears. All at once he realized he had walked miles in the rain, but the sound that soothed his ears did not at all ease his pain. With a heavy heart of grief, he began to venture home, until a steady beat caught his ear like a drifting metronome. The melody captivated his heart, so he drew near to its sound. A large old music hall is where he himself found. Past the glass doors and down a grey hall is where the melody led, into a small dark piano room that was colder than the dead. A dusty old piano presented itself so kindly, and with great grace Stan sat and began to play it blindly. And with every note he played, the pain would fade away. A moment of rest from the pain in his chest. Over Lila G. Bolé. For the next 3 years, at 6 each day, he retired to that room, each day numbing his melancholy with the same depressing tune. One day, as he was leaving, he spotted a posted flyer, giving away used piano and will deliver if desired. Perhaps this used piano could make the wrong things right, and pull from the ashes the things he burned that night. The solution seemed clear, so he quickly dialed the number, in hopes that this good fortune could at last ease his slumber. On November 25th, like every other day, at 6 o'clock sharp the same old tune he played. His lifeless routine continued, numbing his hopeless melancholy, blind to its usefulness and sweeping foolish folly. But today was different than the others, for at 7:30 exact, Stan stopped, grabbed his belongings, and expeditiously packed. For at 8 o'clock that day, a delivery truck from Moore would arrive promptly at his own front door. As he approached the door, the delivery truck from Moore pulled into the lot. He adjusted his specs to try to check to see what he had got. He stood very still, as if outside his will, as one man approached the door. "Sign here," he said, and Stan nodded his head to accept the package from Moore. The 2 men quickly brought it in, and just as quickly were gone again, leaving just him and the covered butte. So he stood there, petrified and nearly stricken mute. The sheet blew soft as he pulled it off. A masterpiece revealed itself. The piano that lay beneath that dusty woven sheet seemed to be worth its weight in pelf. Silently he looked on with awe, as his heart swelled with glee, all until he slowly pressed down upon a key. A broken beauty he had received. It was, at least, broken seemingly, an angel with no voice. So to tend to the crippled clavier was his first and only choice. He sat on the stool to find the flaw, and the seat creaked a squeaking awful call. So Stan lifted the seat and found tucked inside were old music sheets trying to hide. Carefully he handled the old sheet stack and placed it on the music rack, but the top sheet drifted like a feather to the ground, and by mistake Stan bumped a key and it sang its sound. Stunned he sat, for now she played, and he smiled a smile that stretched for days. The name of the first piece, An Ode to Wealth. He began to play and he enjoyed himself. The piece was fairly quick and wasted no clock. Suddenly he heard a knock. Swiftly Stan arose and answered the door, where he found a brown suitcase on the floor. Without much thought he grabbed the case and gave it 2 taps to make sure it was safe. She had no lock, she had no code, just a latch to hold it closed. The latch was loose, so with little a thought, Stan carefully untied its knot. Greenback beauties filled the old case's walls. In disbelief, his body stalled. Surely this wasn't for my door, and surely another man is searching for. These thoughts ran through the mind of Stan, until suddenly he thought up a brilliant plan. Stan would hide the reward just in case, in a private and protected place. In the wardrobe is where the case he'd keep, wrapped in a quilt and placed underneath several blankets made of wool. He then returned to the piano stool. Sitting still, mind a blank, who's to blame or who's to thank? A gracious gift perhaps is all, or perhaps just a conniving Neanderthal. To calm his nerves he began to play piece number 2 called Lovely. The piece was soft, a melodious tune, graced with the spirit of fall and the warmth of June. But the music ended just as suddenly as it began, because now there's something wrong with Stan. Feeling quite ill, Stan rushed to the loo, and was visited by his lunch of stew. Once done, he flushed and washed his hands, and while turning to dry, he caught a glance. An unrecognizable face stared back through the glass, and a chiseled jaw graced this handsome mask. His posture too was rather unflawed, and his physique was now one of staggering awe. Stunned once more, he fell to the floor, overwhelmed by it all. How could this be? What has happened to me? I'm as unblemished as a doll. And then all at once it became perfectly clear. It was the piano's keys that brought the magic here. Somehow it held the reins of fate. Why, any mere man through this could become great. But greatness is not what Stan did seek, and he cared very little for his own physique. It was his lover alone that could make him smile, and bring relief from his suffering for a while. Perhaps one last piece could soothe his soul, and warm the heart that had turned to coal. At last he stumbled on a piece titled Love is Fate, and even its name lifted a painful weight. This piece was different than the others. It was laced with a seal. And just for a moment Stan just sat there still, admiring the mystery of the untouched seat. But the temptation of man is a curious thing. The seal was broken, and innocence was lost. With every heavy action comes a heavier cost. A pain in his chest began to rise, and mournful tears welled up his eyes. He pushed past the ache and began to play his only hope, Sweet Lover's Fate. The tune was filled with grief. This time the melody soothed not the pain held underneath. He played harder and faster, thinking this would do the trick. But with every key he played, he felt himself grow sick. His rhythm grew slower and softer as he continued to play, and the color in his face turned a cold and deathly gray. He pressed on with hope, but as he played the final key, the pain faded away, and Stan was at last free. A moment of rest from the pain in his chest. Over Lila. G. Belay.